John in Quincy, Illinois. Hi.
Yes. There's a woman by the name of Jane Graham, Graham, and she witnessed 5 people in the Oklahoma explosion down there when they built that building. And there were 2 military men wiring up, she called yellow sticks of butter, which was C4 plastic, they found out later.
Right, right. What's the point here?
The point is, why isn't anything done about this? If you go to Infowars.com, you can see a YouTube picture of it.
So what are you suggesting is that the U.S. military blew up Oklahoma City?
No, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just saying there's a lot of odd things, just like the investigation of 9/11. Six of the 10 commissioners says it's a cover-up, and 3 of the attorneys.
Great. Conspiracy theories.
They abound in everything. And I often talk to Americans that people who complain that overseas, many of the Arab world think that the CIA or the Mossad, the Israelis, blew up the towers on 9/11. I remind my friends that criticize foreigners for having conspiracy theories that we have them here. Conspiracy theories are a natural thing to try to explain the unexplainable. How does these horrible things happen? And in fact, most of the investigations, congressional investigations on Oklahoma City, on 9/11, I think have been done very professionally. If I thought there was anything wrong with it, I'd be screaming about it, because I'm not trying to protect anybody other than the American people from terrorist acts. And I think those investigations, I've studied them in great detail, were pretty thorough.
Sheehan comes from Pittsburgh. Greg, Independent Line. Hi.
Hello. I was listening to your guest, and now I'm even more concerned about the people you have on the air. He said that he studied the 9/11 and the Oklahoma City bombing investigations, and he thought they were done so well. Well, there were people that were on the committees that admitted that they were thwarted and that they didn't have the funding. So if he's saying this is disturbing me. Do you have a comment on that?
I've spoken to almost all the 9/11 Commission members, and I think they were generally satisfied with the report. At least of course, they have complaints about certain areas, perhaps not having enough time or enough funding, or certain areas but the general contours, the general principal findings of the report, I don't think any of the members had a major problem with. And I know virtually all of them. I was interviewed by them extensively. They had stacks of my documents that I wrote when I was in the government. That I think they generally got the story right. Was it perfect? There were going to be complaints and grumbling, perhaps, but I think generally what they outlined happened on 9/11 is what happened. And the same thing with Timothy McVeigh and his band of 3 people that blew up the government buildings in Oklahoma City.
Elizabeth in Liberty, St. Louis. Bill, Democrat. You're on with Michael Sheehan.
Yes, Mr. Sheehan. How are you doing today?
Good.
I'd like you to comment, since you're a terrorist expert. Why don't you comment on all of the nanothermite that was found at the World Trade Center in the dust? And if you want to get at the terrorist issue, why don't you deal with the apartheid state of Israel?
Well, I'm not familiar with the dust of the World Trade Center, but I know there's a lot of questions and conspiracies about what happened there. I think it's pretty much what it was, a couple airplanes driving into some big buildings that unfortunately created a perfect storm of heat and fire, and they collapsed.
Are you surprised at the level of suspicion about 9/11?
No, I'm not.
Why?
It's typical. We typically, not only Americans, but people abroad, almost always put a conspiracy theory on something. The murder of President Kennedy. I think there are many, many Americans who think that the Warren Commission was absolutely wrong. It's been looked at over and over and over again. I believe it probably got it right. Do I have questions about Oswald and Ruby? And of course, it's unexplainable how this can all happen. But at the end of the day, I happen to believe in what it is. But many, many Americans can't accept that. 9/11, other big events, it just seems to be a natural phenomena, both here in the U.S. and certainly abroad, even worse abroad. The conspiracy theories are much more deep and worse outside the U.S.
Time for a couple more calls with Michael Sheehan. We're talking about preventing domestic terrorism. Elkridge, Maryland. John, Independent Line. Hi.
Good morning, Mr. Sheehan.
Hi.
I would like to just name a couple people, and if you could tell me yes or no if you are familiar with these people, and then have a follow-up.
Okay.
Major General Albert Stubblebine.
John, go ahead, list your people, ask your question, then we'll get a response.
Okay. It's Colonel George Nelson, Lieutenant Colonel Shelton Langford, Commander Ralph Colstead, There's 200 more military people at a site called Patriots Question 9/11. I was going to ask you if you were familiar with that site, and if not, you and everyone listening to this should definitely check it out.
Thank you very much, John, another conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, and a lot of people question it. And again, if I thought there was something unusual about 9/11, I would be sitting here today talking about it. I have no agenda to protect anybody. President Bush, President Obama, neither administration. If I saw something that made me uncomfortable, that I thought would make our nation less safe, I'd be out there.
Next call for Michael Sheehan, Arlington, Massachusetts. Mark.
Yes, hi. Thank you for taking my call. Are you there?
Yes.
We're listening.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure. Just on a couple of questions. This is not conspiracy. This is fact. This is in the 9/11 Commission and another on Fox News, and this has all been recorded. So I'm a little concerned that C-SPAN, when people do ask about 9/11, which is still an event that people are concerned about, that it's quickly cut off as a conspiracy. So just two questions for the gentleman is, three buildings were destroyed that day, not just the Twin Towers, the North Tower and the South Tower. Obviously, building number 7 went down at about 6 o'clock in the evening, 8 hours after the plane.
So, Mark, what's your question?
Well, I'm getting to it. My question is simply this. The owner of the building, Silverstein, said that the building was pulled. The 9/11 Commission wasn't quite sure. Also that day, a place called Urban Moving Systems, which later were found out to be Mossad agents from Israel, had filmed the event in advance and were then later arrested. And
that's all fact, Mark?
Yes, definitely. You can look it up. You can look it up in the 9/11 Commission. You can look it up on Fox News. You can look it up all over the place. This gentleman knows about it.
Thanks. Mr. Sheehan.
I'm not aware of the Mossad filming 9/11, but I'm aware of many conspiracies that believe the Israelis blew up 9/11. I reject those categorically, as well as the conspiracies that U.S. government was somehow involved. And regarding Building 7, by the way, there were more than 3 buildings that went down at the World Trade Center, a whole 18 acres hole down there. It's a horrific spot. I used to work right nearby there, drove by it every day. Building 7, which is a tower, part of the World Trade Complex, had a huge, massive fuel storage area built into it because it had some of the air conditioning units for the whole center down there. When the 2 towers went down, it ignited a fire across the street in Trade Center Building 7. It went up in flames and came down. And I know Larry Silverstein very well, the owner of that building.